Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain on a day like today? Not me. No way. Can't do it. No how. Things are going great. We're at the edge of the golden age. It's never been more clear. We're here. What's happening? I gotta warn you though, the door is closed because Rake Man is here today. I didn't know Rake Man was going to be around. Although I do have the beautiful smell of fresh mowed grass all around me, I don't want the noise. So that's why the door behind me is closed. If he is a little quieter in the next hour, because I'm an hour ahead of you East Coast folks, I will be opening the doors. But until then, we're just going to have to live with this. That's life. I see the chat is super alive this morning. People are excited about the golden age. Let's roll, says Seaberger. Noha says greetings from Wisconsin, where we just enjoyed some false spring. Noah, I was looking for you yesterday. I knew you would want to comment on the false spring. Indeed, the false spring was there. JJ Fox says block number 938,290, 66,000 US trash tokens per Bitcoin. Jane Street done dicking the price. Infinity and beyond. Indeed, we'll see. That's what it looks like. Happy Wednesday, Nolan and Great Awakening crew. Jack 2K in the house. CB Van experts say Jane beyond dicking. Is this infinity? T-Dog, yo. Good morning, gang. Lee J 369, good morning, Count and Crew Outlaw, State of Mind. Indeed, Hell Stew, Wisconsin is here after all. Pennsylvania Groundhogs confirm false spring all around. Wisconsin was in the house after all. Escape the Matrix, Chatelet, got another 1-2 inches of snow to add to over the 2 feet we have already. Barf bags. Indeed, it's snowy everywhere. But if you have your ID, you can shovel it too. So there you go, right? As long as you know your ID is, we're going to talk about ID snow shoveling today. Thanks, Pennsylvania, for the confirm. Indeed, Escape the Matrix. Make sure to stretch before shoveling. That is good advice. Barely always, but also shovel these. Be cool in there, guys. Caught up afterwards, indeed. Barely 45 facts. Tired of the snow, man, says Escape the Matrix. I've been there. So don't take my southern winter attitude too personally. Don't forget, I grew up in Quebec and Vermont, which means I got a lot more winter in my life than all of you combined. So I got a good 6 months of snow per year throughout my entire life. So I'm just so far ahead on the snow, I just can't take it anymore. I once wrecked my groin shoveling. Hassan says, good morning. Will be 82 Fahrenheit today here in Fort Worth, Texas. Beautiful temperatures, about what it is here. Bitcoin is running and so am I, says Doug T. Quiet, the morning show is starting. Indeed, morning, Nolan and crew. Good morning, Awakeners. Golden age at hand, says Citadel Daniel. That's what I'm seeing. Guten Tag from Texas. Another Texan here. You're not supposed to shovel with your... Come on, despite what you've been told. We love it. Rake Man, Escape the Matrix. He's here. Dang it, Rake Man's around. Kites and rakes, evil. Good morning, Bitcoiners. USA flag. We got a great Gatsby, Leonardo DiCaprio with the cheers. That's what we're doing. Change takes courage. Bitcoin is change. Top of the day, Bampians. That's what's up, indeed. Let me make sure the YouTube is running as intended. I'm broadcasting this on YouTube as well. Let me just see what we got. Indeed, there we are. We are live. It's happening. It is happening. Okay, let's go. Indeed. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. I shut off my comments. Good morning from Minnesota, says 10K Sats. We're going to be talking about Minnesota today. You can bet. It's part of the union. This is a mega American show. We're talking all about the State of the Union yesterday. We've got some great Scott Adams frames. But first, oh, Jesus, what did I just do? How in the heck Okay, that should be good. All right, everyone. That is a confirmed sunrise. We have Sunrise Tech is operational. And as we said, we checked, Bitcoin is running. We're doing great, everyone. Let's talk about what's new. Have some coffee. Good morning, Zombie Co Gaming. It's cold here. Palm trees are struggling. Strugglers. Struggling. We got some strugglers in the house. All right. But before we get to the State of the Union, I have some very important updates from the legacy news. You're not going to believe we got some science in this morning, everyone. We got some really important science. Wait until you see this, guys. Climate change. All right. This is the truth, guys. Climate change on television reaches engaged but misses the distant audiences. So we have how many scientists? Imke, Felix, Christian, Alexander, Matthias, Thomas, Stefan, all Euros, Irene, all of these scientists have put all of their brains together, and they have discovered that if you don't watch television, you don't hear what's on television. I hope you're sitting. Abstract. Television is a widely used medium for boomers for climate information worldwide, yet its role in engagement remains unexplored. We don't know what the effects of television are. We got to explore the effects of television. Here we examine both the representation of climate change on television and the audience engagement with it. We analyzed 23,000 hours of programming across 20 German television channels over 61 days in 2022 and further addressed audience engagement with climate content through a representative survey. In the beginning of the poly-crisis context of autumn 2022, including war, inflation, and energy insecurity, 2.2% of the broadcast hours addressed climate topics. Climate coverage was concentrated in news formats, reaching mostly to the climate-engaged majority. So only people who watch the news about climate change know about climate change. It's the truth. The scientists, thank God we have science. Thank God we put 10 scientists in a room and they managed to come up with this. If you watch the television, you will believe what's on TV. If you don't watch the television, you won't believe what's on TV. Taken together, these findings suggest that strengthening inclusive storytelling, diversifying representation, there's not enough Black people talking about climate change on television. You need more. More. It isn't enough. They have to watch, and they can't be white. You have to diversify representation. Innovative formats to enhance the reach and inclusivity of televised climate communication. Oh my God, it was concentrated in news for climate engagement. Majority remain largely invisible for climate distant groups who prefer entertainment programs. Only the smart people watch TV, guys. All right, I got some good ones on Trump today now. We got some good ones. That's from the Science is In, guys. The Science is In. All right, let's find out what the legacy news is talking about with Trump's speech last night. Time magazine, Trump's State of the Union, the longest ever, struggled to land its points, says Time magazine. Wah, wah, wah. Poor Trump. Must be losing. What do we hear from MS Now? Multiple sclerosis now. The dark tension at the heart of Trump's State of the Union. There was dark tension, everyone. I saw dark tension. Did you feel the dark tension? We get this from BBC. Trump's theatrical State of the Union address offers little hint of any change of course. No. He's going to keep doing what he said he was going to do. Oh, my God. Big surprise. Big takeaways. Trump is Trump, according to the BBC. We get this from Politico. What Trump avoided in the State of the Union could haunt him in November. What did he avoid? President Donald Trump's State of the Union address was defined in many respects, not by what he said, but what he avoided saying. There were mistakes he avoided making. Trump did not attack the Supreme Court. He did not blitz members of his own party who have criticized him. He avoided rambling, angry discussions from the script. Then there were issues he avoided addressing. Trump offered no new ideas on housing or health care. Oh, no. No mention of Epstein. Oh, he's going to lose. Oh, no. Oh, no. That's what Politico said. Politico, low ratings for Trump. We get this more from MS Now. Trump's State of the Union address was as cheery as it was disturbingly macabre. It was macabre. Macabre. It was macabre. He had a macabre State of the Union. That's MS Now. The Guardian has this to say. The Guardian says, why the longest ever State of the Union address was the most inconsequential amid Trump's lies and xenophobic rants. People struggling to pay bills and make ends meet are unlikely to be moved. Oh, we'll talk about that later. We get this from CNN. Trump staged a State of the Union spectacle, but he couldn't escape political gravity. Oh, no, he couldn't escape political gravity. Political gravity has caught him. Oh, no, and this is what we get from the great New York Times. What would we do in these times without them? A tedious, tiresome performance, the best and worst moments from Trump's State of the Union. More wah, 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 wah. Oh, no. And finally, we have this from The Atlantic. Or not finally, we have a few more. President Trump's State of the Union variety show. Were you entertained? Yes, I was. Thank you. It was entertaining. Thanks for asking. Thanks for asking, Atlantic. And we get this as well from Northeastern Global News. State of the Union 2026. Trump delivered a vintage pep rally, but is unlikely to sway midterm voters. Experts say, I found this one in the experts say search I did. Experts say for nearly 2 hours, the longest such address on record, he alternated between praising loyal supporters, taking aim at congressional Democrats, and offering a running commentary of his own record. Indeed, that is kind of what he did. So first up, and I have one more fake news story before we get going, and this is the one that had a lot of attention yesterday from the New York Times as well. From The Athletic, the U.S. men's hockey team won Olympic gold for the first time since the Miracle on Ice 46 years ago. And for a time, the joy belonged to everyone, our columnist writes. By the next day, it didn't. Their triumph is now attached to Trump. His track record suggests it won't be used to celebrate everyone. It's more likely to be framed as dominance than shared aspiration. Oh no, it's going to work against them. And indeed, we have an oldie but a goodie before we get into the analysis, our analysis of Trump's speech last night. We get this. It's a reminder, right? Trump's Vanity Fair cover from last year. 34 felony counts, 1 conviction, 2 cases pending, 2 impeachments, 6 bankruptcy, 4 more years. The 47th president of the United States. Indeed, Mythomaga, no president will ever have stats like this again. Not enough people appreciate the unbelievable odds Trump won against in 2024, and they didn't even mention the multiple attempts on his life. Indeed. So let's now move one more sip of coffee, and we'll talk about the news. Lots going on, having a good time out there. Great headlines indeed. So we're going to measure I have some great Scott Adams frames for us today. We're going to measure the persuasiveness of the speech last night, see if Trump picked up any new voters, or if it can be used to pick up new voters, or if it will matter in a little while. Now, of course, you heard the swamp sludge people's take from the dying legacy news, the fiat apparatchiks that are out there trying to propagate their point of view. That's why we cover the NPC news first, just to show you what sludge people are saying in order to use contrast. Contrast, of course, we're going to talk about it towards the end of the show today, but contrast was one of the tools that Trump wielded big time yesterday. Lots of contrast. So I'm going to contrast what the legacy news said with some takes from folks online. Before we get started, these are sort of general takes. They're not going to get into too many specifics. I'll move to some specifics right after. If you haven't seen the speech, you should have everything important from the speech by the end of this. So here's Nick Adams with a good one report. Network executives are furious as President Trump's 2026 State of the Union address is on pace to be the most watched political speech in American history. So first up, before we even get into the principles of persuasion, Remember, attention is the most important factor in persuasion. Getting people to look, getting people to pay attention is number one. And that Trump managed to make this the most watched political speech in America. And probably, if you add up all the different platforms, online, television, everything, makes sense that it would be. There's more people and more channels, and if you add them all up in some weird way, I'm sure it was the most ever, especially with the stakes and especially with the interest and saturation of these stories these days. Buck Sexton says, this is the best State of the Union address I've ever seen, not just by Trump, but by any president. I think a few people had that point of view. You get here, Cernovich saying, I've never seen a State of the Union speech like this in my life. For those who want to be haters, go read my prior comments on Trump speeches. I call a clean game. Tonight was unlike anything we have ever seen from any president in my entire lifetime. And indeed, someone already mentioning Scott Adams here, the third act, Scott Adams is smiling down on all of us. I think that's the case. Now, remember, you got to always put Cernovich in context when you're talking about this stuff, because Cernovich is one of the original Trump defectors from his first term. The moment Trump went Paul Ryan, the moment Trump didn't pay attention to the violence that was occurring by Antifa against various people in MAGA, including many Bitcoiners. Again, don't forget the famous Berkeley beatdown. That was a Bitcoiner in the middle of that, Kira Robles, who worked for Blockstream at the time, and it was big news to us because we knew her, and watching her get pepper sprayed, beaten in the head. Now, remember, when they all went to lick their wounds, Cernovich sent them Bitcoin to pay the bar bill while they all celebrated whatever the hell, conflict, World War III, initial spat they'd been involved in. I think it'll be historic. I mean, it's Milo Yiannopoulos was big news that day. Many folks who went to Berkeley at that time in the earliest moments of the 2017 mandate that Trump got, found out that, they were the first people to find out what was coming. That's the first time we ever saw Antifa get mobilized. That was the first time the brown shirts ever came out for any of this stuff. So it was the first time we'd seen real violence. And from there, of course, it just starts spilling over. We have months and months leading up, of course, to George Floyd summer 4 years later. So the violence hasn't stopped. Of course, we've seen all of this stuff over the years. That was the first instance. So it's important to notice here, Cernovich, while he was a White House correspondent at the time, was ringing the bell about violence. And when Trump didn't respond to the violence and chose instead to appease Republicans, Cernovich was out. Cernovich lobbied or campaigned hard in Florida for the state level stuff in 2020, but mostly sat Trump's re-election effort out because he never forgave him for siding with Republicans. And I think, no one can doubt Cernovich is mega MAGA indeed. So that was a really important moment. And I just want to mention here that I pulled Cernovich out because he is saying, go read my prior comments on Trump's speeches. He is not one to flatter Trump for no reason. So it's not just the fans of Trump that I'm trying to get. But I like the fans of Trump. Another one from Buck Sexton. Enjoy tonight, MAGA faithful. It's a well-deserved Trump victory lap after an astonishingly strong year for America. Great things are happening. The lunatic libs are in retreat. Soak it all in. Celebrate these wins now. And many people think that's the case. Lee Zeldin with a little more perspective, even though he's from cabinet. This is one of the inside baseball folks, but here he is going out of his way. During my 8 years in Congress, I sat in the House chamber for the so-to speeches of President Obama, Trump, and then Biden. Tonight's address was the very best I've witnessed in person, on TV, or further back in history. President Trump is just so locked in right now. Glenn Beck also with a great takes. Tonight's so-to was the best of my lifetime. Spot on, right tone, hit people where they live, expose the Democrats as being way out of touch with the average American. Great hopeful stories, heroes from every walk of life, and real Donald Trump was at his zenith. Best speech he has delivered by far, confident without arrogance, clear without anger, funny, honest, and effective. I have no so-tos I can compare it to. As people in the president's former business would say, there are no comparables. Great speech. Never thought I would say this about any so-to, but worth every minute. As he was walking away, he looked and acted 20 years younger. This guy is a machine. And that is, the first overarching thing. Again, Trump did this at the Bitcoin Nashville speech. He came across as young. And, not, of course, he looks old, and he is old. But when he's talking about what's next and the excitement he personally has, when he's talking about the future and the golden age and how excited it has him, he speaks about it like a young person. And when he was speaking about Bitcoin at the Bitcoin conference, that's what stood out to me, is that he sounded like a young person, even though we know he's old. And that's not an easy thing for an old person to pull off. And I don't mean, he was talking about looks maxing and clavicular lingo. He wasn't doing anything like that. It was just the type of optimism, almost like he had something to look forward to. In this case, possibly just that he knows people have a chance to exist in this golden age of America is an important thing, because there was a bit of here's Walter Kern's take, a valedictory vibe to that speech, a heightened sense of time and its passing. It seemed to stand for more than 1 year in a way. Trump knows there will be a world without him in it someday. So indeed, knowing that there'll be a world without him in it, but also being confident that that world would be good, I think was another really important aspect of the speech, because there was a lot of lessons in it for all of us. And remember, I've been saying for a long time that you can never really stop what Trump has started, because he's shown everyone how to do it. He's modeled the behavior of how to conduct ourselves and how to attack things and how to make arguments and how to sell things. And so he's really upped everyone's game in that way. And now going to the actual speech, right, the persuasive parts of it, here's my first Scott Adams filter of the day, the 6 principles of persuasion. This comes from the Bob Cialdini book, The Principles of Persuasion, a book that had a large effect on Scott Adams. And in fact, many people believe, and Scott Adams said this many times, the reason he got into politics is because he perceived the writer of this book, Bob Cialdini, had started to work for Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election. And when Scott Adams saw what he called Godzilla, he sensed that there was a master persuader that had been activated. It was the moment Hillary's game stepped up when she became the candidate and started using very powerful and just signals, different words. Scott Adams used to talk about the word dark, how the moment he heard Hillary Clinton start to use the word dark in the context that she used it in 2015, the dark world that Trump was going to unleash in America, the dark times that he was going to unleash, he said, wait a minute, that's not her. That's a master persuader who's activated and used this word that can be codified and defined in the minds of each individual person hearing it. So it's very powerful in that you can make your own version of dark. And it was just a sort of totem that could be used in order to help lead like a Pied Piper and get folks to start repeating that word. A little bit like how weird was attempted with J.D. Vance in the last election. So that's what activated Scott Adams, was the perception and sense that there was an unfair advantage opening up for the Democrats, that they had recruited a world-class hypnotist / persuader, and that indeed, in order to even the balance and keep the scales the same, he decided to start using his powers to help Donald Trump. So I learned about Bob Cialdini through Scott Adams, and I read Bob Cialdini's book very early on because Scott would talk about him quite often, especially in the early shows when Scott was really trying to match Bob Cialdini's effect on the campaign. And so this whiteboard that I created illustrates the 6 principles of persuasion. And you'll see that Trump used all of them yesterday to the most devastating effect. And indeed, now, I don't expect this speech to be something that people remember every day while they go vote in the midterms. But what it did do was provide a model for other people to follow, just like I mentioned earlier about the Walter Kern take about the speech being valedictory, that you could see that he was leaving a place, but also giving you the tools, just like Scott Adams did towards the end of his life, teaching everyone how to apply Scott's filters and apply Scott's expertise at reading media and interpreting trends and seeing how persuasion was going to allow us to predict what's going to happen next. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use the principles of persuasion that I learned from Scott Adams to go over the speech. So the first piece here is authority. And indeed, what you can see from Trump just being that teacher, from being presidential yesterday in the speech, was a big deal. And Glenn Beck here has that in his focus as well. He says, tonight you are seeing a different POTUS at the State of the Union. He is not a cocky or a big talker, which is a hallmark and the funniest part of Trump. Tonight, however, he's been funny in different ways, but he is not arrogant. He is confident. He knows who he is and now what he has done. His track record in the last year doesn't need any boasting. It speaks for itself. Time will tell, but my guess is that in 100 years, it will be George Washington, father of our country, Lincoln, the savior of the Union, and Trump, the refounding father of the U.S. Thank you, real Donald Trump. That indeed is a Scott Adams frame. So just look at how we're learning over the years. Refounding fathers was an actual Scott Adams ism that he used during the 2024 election. He even cast all of the refounding roles, of course, the Benjamin Franklin being Elon Musk, the Thomas Jefferson being Vivek, and I think he used Kennedy as Adams, and just a really interesting take. And I think a lot of people can agree with the frame of a refounding. And in fact, it's just a really interesting idea here that, again, we go back to the P2P information environment that the Bitcoiners live in. It's not a top-down information structure. And to watch this kind of vocabulary pass between different peers is, I think, a great way to both measure Scott Adams' effect on all of us, but also Trump's effect, and how we've all learned from each other. We've all been able to model each other's behaviors and techniques, and it's allowed us to, I think, start to climb out of this disgusting swamp that we all find ourselves in. Indeed, here's another take about Trump's attitude. The Misfit Patriot says Trump is absolutely destroying at the State of the Union. Honestly, I was kind of thinking maybe a toned down unity message would be good. I was wrong. This is better. He's fucking roasting the Democrats and exposing their bullshit in front of the country, and it's glorious. So again, go back to the frame of authority, right? Being the actual president and being presidential, and then not entering and arguing the frame, because that's what I saw, right? He didn't enter and argue the frame. He just pointed out that it's mental illness. It's not even worth arguing. Most of these opinions are not even worth arguing. They're not real opinions. They're just mental illness. And he was able to really use that frame indeed. And you see here, they just like we heard from the Germans who are watching too much TV and think that watching more TV is the key to getting people to believe in climate change, which it probably is. Unseen here, shows the limitations of this mental illness on one side, saying, in my opinion, the Dems were in shock tonight. They believed the media and thought Trump would be coming into the speech wounded. Instead, he came in guns blazing, taking victory lap after victory lap, calling up the crazy Dems to their face, recounting his and the GOP wins and showing the best of America. And indeed, a really important way to frame it, right? And again, he didn't enter the frame of my opinion and your opinion. It was just look at the wins. These are amazing, and look at your mental illness. And indeed, Bitpain said Trump's superpower and the reason for his success is that he provokes in leftists a deranged lunacy that renders them incapable of rational thought. So right there, just that authority that he brought as president, and not negotiating the authority, assuming the authority, and then casting the other side as completely insane, not by anything he said, just by their reactions and just by the way they handled the information and the way they behaved. And it was enough to create that frame. He generates a null field that transforms even formerly competent, rational people into unsympathetic, moronic, anti-American communists. It's truly incredible to witness. And that's what you saw. Instead of authority, you saw grandstanding babies and people crying. We'll talk more specifically about the crying for sure. Now, even with his authority, of course, he went and talked about the he talked about the well, he modeled this behavior, right? So again, you'll see this is Ben Braddock saying Trump was farming clips all night that will wind up in political ads that will be brutal for Democrats in the midterms. I think that's correct. We'll be looking at some of those images pretty soon, and you'll see that he was able to create something that everyone can now copy. Everyone can copy his stump speech. And I think I've got a quote here where people are even saying that, right? The speech was the opening barrage of the midterms political war. Trump just handed every Republican candidate in America their stump speech for the next 8 months. So again, he took his authority, took his time up there, and actually just modeled how to have authority in these arguments and created a model that many are going to be able to copy. Molly says the same thing. Molly Hemingway, what a gift for every Republican campaign strategist in the country, every single Democrat sitting defiantly in disagreement with that the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens rather than illegal aliens. I'll show you that clip soon as well. Trump, again, another spot in this formula, just doing great. And you'll see now, again, with his leadership and assuming the presidential role, he did put the hammer down a few times and used his authority to create more of these frames. He said Trump just called Congress to ban illegals from holding commercial driver's license. And this is another great one because you realize that the emperor has no clothes, that all these state leaders that go around talking about no ID for foreigners, it's all a scam. This form of asymmetric warfare perpetuated by Democrat regimes in blue states against the rest of the country is totally unacceptable. There's no reason Americans should be worried about getting killed by an illegal alien driving an 18-wheeler every time they go on the highway. Almost no shot that this actually passes, but it can be a good vote to force the Democrats to defend, and there are other mechanisms the administrations can resort to in order to force these people off the road. So another good use of that technique indeed. And now with his authority, of course, here's where you're starting to see some of this contrast. So he came out and said, I've ended 8 wars. And of course, he gets the Democrats to laugh about that, right? Oh, it isn't. Let me see if my audio is still coming through. Hold on a second. I'm going to stop sharing and then re-share. I have most of them up today in a thread of likes, so I won't have to do this several times. I just couldn't get them all in. But here's Trump describing this 8 wars, and listen to the laughter. So again, this is just a perfect contrast for authority of a president and then mental illness on the other side. Imagine laughing about peace.
Our country has never been stronger. In my first 10 months, I ended 8 wars, including Cambodia. Isn't it funny? Sick people. Cambodia and Thailand, Pakistan and India would have been a nuclear war. 35 million people said the Prime Minister of Pakistan would have died if it were not for my involvement.
So indeed, they're laughing at the end of these 8 wars. And then he also used his authority to look at the Supreme Court. Clandestine says here, it appears Trump's objective going into the State of the Union was to paint the picture that the Dems are un-American and don't represent the interests of the American people. It's safe to say that objective was achieved. Trump is winning the battle for public perception. Here, he looks directly at Amy Coney Barrett and talks about the tariff decision. I will also play the audio here. Let me see if it comes.
They're a little more complex, but they're actually probably better, leading to a solution that will be even stronger than before. Congressional action will not be necessary. It's already time-tested and approved. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden.
I'll be talking about the income tax more in a second, but indeed, he comes out and says, I won't need congressional approval. As president, I have these powers. You've actually empowered me more because of the decision that the Supreme Court made. So again, you guys can hear it? Yeah. How many rakes does that man have? Fully automatic? No, he's got the weed whacker out right now. He should be out of here though. I think he's just doing the trim around the balcony. Um, yeah, I don't really decide when this guy comes, so pardon me for the weird scheduling. Um, it's not really up to me. Did the audio come through? Love the rake. Yeah, CD band. It's a weed whacker. It'll go away in a second. I'll get him out of here. Actually, 1 second. Rake man's back. Weed whacker man now. Weed whacker man. Even worse than rake man. Even worse. So there you go. It's Trump here really applying the bully pulpit in ways that I think were persuasive. I think they definitely are a factor in how all of this is going. And then even went one step further. Of course, here you see he shook Fetterman's hand. I think that was an important gesture. Trump shook Fetterman's hand. What moment? That moment is what America needs, writ large, desperately. Indeed, here he is, shaking Fetterman's hand, an important thing. Wore a suit for the first time, and indeed, seeing them shake hands, it's just what the country needs. We got to always remember Fetterman is a great guy. I've pulled for Fetterman from when he ran against Dr. Oz. I thought Fetterman at first was just a good symbol because he had the stroke and his brain was broken, but then he didn't take long to see he had real skill, real appeal, and he's in many ways just a great example of what America needs going forward. And I think Fetterman is just one of those guys that perfect example of what America can be and what it was and what it has to offer. So that's Trump using authority and important factors. So here we go back to the whiteboard and see the next one here is scarcity, and the use of scarcity for persuasion. Of course, as Bitcoiners, we understand this 21 million. We understand that there's only so much that can go around, that there are limits to things. And so Trump used the actual budget, the actual limitations of what America has in terms of money, what America has in terms of its constitution, for example, or even the scarcity of our citizenship, for example. With the SAVE Act, he started talking about voting. Now, he did this in probably the most visual way, the most persuasive way. So there's one way you can go around and talk about voting, right? So and it really speaks to the value and scarcity of American citizenship. Who's American? Who gets to vote? What's going on? What's the value of being a U.S. citizen if your vote can just be completely stolen from a unaccountable, unauditable, scammy election system? So it makes the whole question of the SAVE Act and voter ID really important. So Trump had the best way I've ever seen, a very visual way of getting into this to pass the SAVE Act. What he did was he framed Mamdani and the snowstorm in New York. So listen to this. Just absolutely perfect, right? This is, pure Trump. Let me just restart so I know that I have audio. It was all Trump theater. I mean, really, really Trump theater going on. And this is just one of the great examples. So here he is talking about the SAVE Act.
And even the new communist mayor of New York City, I think he's a nice guy, actually.
He's a nice guy.
Speak to him a lot. Bad policy, but nice guy. Just said they want people to shovel snow. They got hit hard. Wants them to shovel snow, but if you apply for that job, you need to show 2 original forms of ID and a Social Security card. Yet they don't want identification for the greatest privilege of them all, voting in America. No, it's no good.
So just highlighting that
No good.
voting is a privilege.
Both Republicans
Citizens.
and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens.
Pass the SAVE Act and save America's election. So that was a win, indeed. Here we already saw, because of that, the the city of New York already changed the emergency snow shovelers webpage. Trump was right. The Democrats just changed New York emergency snow shovelers webpage. So eligibility, that was the February 22nd. Here, registration, 2 small photos, 2 original forms of ID, plus copies, social security card. All 3 of those needed. After Trump's speech, registration, none of the above. So imagine they asked for ID to shovel snow, but not to vote in elections. So Trump here leveraged the whole argument and the whole idea around the scarcity, and was able to use that to value American citizenship, which is an important thing. Stephen A. Smith gets it. Here he is talking about the voter ID thing as well. Very important to see. And again, this is why I continue to argue and make the case that Trump is going to win the African-American vote this year. He's going to shock the world with the midterm haul that he gets from the African-American voters. Stephen A. Smith and many African-Americans do not like that there are illegal immigrants coming into the country that have as many rights to public services and to influence how America goes. So it's not just this, black people with melanin versus white people. That's a fake frame. It's Americans versus people who are coming to America when it comes to the scarcity and the limitation of resources there are to go around. And the value of citizenship. So here you see Stephen A. Smith arguing it, saying, make it make sense.
Let me get this straight. I need ID. If I'm a person in New York who wants to get anywhere from $19 to $30 an hour to shovel snow, I need 2 forms of ID. But Democrats are arguing on Capitol Hill, why should you need ID to vote? Make it make sense. These are the issues we should be talking about. These are the discrepancies we should be pointing out. These are the hiccups that we should be bloviating about. Let me get this.
So I believe Stephen A. Smith is going to have a real role in this. And here's Mamdani, just like we heard from Trump. So again, we have limited resources. We're talking about ID. Here they are coming out yesterday. You had, what's her name, AOC and Mamdani. And just listen to this, right? We are so excited and proud of the thing that is racist MAGA conspiracy, if you notice and complain about it, the left 2026. So free childcare in Spanish for illegal aliens, they say in this video.
Hola.
Remember, this was fake. I don't
español.
all Spanish. I'm not you don't have to listen to it. So they go on and say it doesn't matter your immigration status. and anyone can apply. Now, that's always been the case, right? There's no difference here, but admitting it is the difference. And indeed, they came out to encourage illegal aliens to sign up for free childcare. Do you know how much that would bother a lot of people who are paying a fortune for healthcare in other cities and other places? So this is where the fraud and the value of U.S. citizenship comes in. And Trump began setting up, again, we've been talking about this, giving J.D. Vance the mandate to wage a war on fraud. This is a great thing for the VP. No one, well, almost no one is against eliminating fraud. It gives JD an important job that is popular and gives him a spotlight for a POTUS run in 2028. And again, I told you that audits and all of these things were going to become the biggest story of 2026. And I think you're going to keep seeing it. Trump confidently confirmed he has all the information on the 19 billion plus US trash token fraud in Minnesota, as well as fraud in other states like California, Mass, Maine, and more. He says they are working on it. The time for justice will come. Here he is talking about the Somali immigrants and all the fraud in Minnesota. Really good stuff here by Trump.
There's been no more stunning example than Minnesota, where members of the Somali community have pillaged an estimated $19 billion from the American taxpayer. Oh, we have all the information. And in actuality, the number is much higher than that. And California, Massachusetts, Maine, and many other states are even worse. This is the kind of corruption that shreds the fabric of a nation, and we are working on it like you wouldn't believe. So tonight, although started 4 months ago, I am officially announcing the war on fraud to be led by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. There's been no more stuff.
Don't forget, Bessent is a part of that. And this is just going to be a constant stream, a fire hose of good news for Trump fighting fraud. These are all freebies, free earned media from now until the midterms. I think you're going to see a ton of this stuff activated over the summer in particular. It's normally a dry news season. We saw Trump absolutely dominate the summer schedule last year. I think he's going to load up a lot of these stories and time them. I bet you there's some schedule somewhere where you get this and this and this going forward. So you're going to see Bessent and J.D. Vance in a very powerful 1-2 combo going after fraud. Now, this also created one of the great images of all of it yesterday. Here you can see when Trump starts going after the Somali issue, you get Ilhan Omar absolutely losing it, chimping it.
Sanctuary cities that protect the
fell for the trick. This was it was a trap, obviously, right? So the point was to get people to react, and it worked. And so here she is. Now, many people have said it was the job of the Democrats to not come across as unhinged and angry. Well, this is an example of it going all the wrong way.
For public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens, in many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Would not work. So here, this clip encapsulates what's at stake. The Somalian is not an American, doesn't want to be an American, and is neck deep in fraud. If you want to deport her, you're a Republican. If you don't, you're whatever that is. And many people picking up on these pictures. Foreigners screaming in furious anger as the president says his duty is to Americans only and not illegal aliens, really sums up the current state of the Democrat Party. Curtis Yarvin says, this is what 1776 was for. And really, it's an important piece of it all. And here you see the president is sending federal agents to arrest people who aspire to be Americans. That's the only kind of way you can fight this, and it just doesn't work. It's a zero persuasion, right? The president is sending federal agents to arrest people who aspire to be Americans is the most linguistically torturous way to say he's arresting illegals who don't belong here. And so going back to the whiteboard here, after you think of the authority and scarcity, again, putting a value, making U.S. citizenship valuable by making it not so easy to get, not so easy to scheme, making your tax dollars and government services somewhat more valuable by not allowing fraud, not allowing all of these things, or at least highlighting the fraud. I mean, there's not much you can do to not allow it, but framing it in this way ends up being very persuasive. And I think that by valuing U.S. citizenship during the speech, by valuing these services, by valuing the relationship the various governments have with people, especially people who need these services, and not letting them get corrupted by people like Ilhan Omar is really important. And you can tell Ilhan Omar is having trouble. Of course, there was a video of her yesterday trying to deny that she ever said white people are the most dangerous people in America. Of course, everyone found the video. She definitely said it on television. The Germans must have caught it watching all their television. And so when you compare her and it's just some simple questions on the vineyard she has in California, which, no one's buying wine from her. She even tried to make a joke to the lady who was interrogating her in the hallways saying, "Do you want to buy some wine?" And she said, "Not from you." And that's a great answer. It was a great little jungle. Let me see if I can find it to play it for you guys. It was a good one. Here it is. Let me know if the audio comes through on this. So,
Congresswoman, Republicans have repeatedly stated that you committed immigration fraud. Are you at all worried about a formal investigation that could perhaps lead to your deportation?
Well, you're one of those people.
I don't know what that means, but are you at all concerned?
Do I look concerned?
I guess not.
Okay.
All right. What about the Minnesota fraud hearing? You didn't show up for that. Do you think you should have?
Why should I have?
Well, it happened in your state. Don't you want to defend your position?
There were people from my state that were there.
Okay, but why not you? I mean, there's allegations that you're complicit in the fraud. Wouldn't you want to show up?
Why would there be an allegation that I'm complicit? How would I be complicit?
Well, what about Tim
Do
Walz?
you just ask stupid questions? Is this your thing?
I'm curious to get your thoughts.
No,
I mean, there's a lot of controversy around the issue. $9 billion in fraud in the state of Minnesota.
$9 billion?
You don't think so?
Really?
Yeah, and counting. Probably more, honestly. You think that's fake news or what?
That is more than half of the resources that are allocated.
Okay.
So you genuinely, your brain has told you that it is possible for half of the resources.
I'm just going off of what
for our public service to half disappear, is what you're saying.
Countless Minnesota state representatives, whistleblowers have come
listen
forward.
to yourself, though.
I'm
Just
trying.
think about that for a second.
Maybe if you showed up at the hearing, you would know that
just think
whistleblowers
about
are
that
being
for a second.
retaliated against for exposing the fraud. Why is that? Why are they being
But
tracked and
just
traced?
think about what you're asking. Who is tracing whistleblowers?
Minnesota state officials, Tim Walz, anyone who dares to speak out against the government.
Tim Walz is doing something to
Yeah,
whistleblowers?
why is Tim Walz stepping down if he's, innocent? Why isn't he running for re-election?
Because he's had 8 years to serve as our great governor.
He was going to be vice president of the United States if Kamala
Yes,
won.
and he would have been an excellent vice
But
president.
now he's stepping
much
down.
better than the person we have right now.
And now he's stepping down as governor. Any comment on that? You don't think he's maybe complicit?
He is focusing on trying to make sure.
anyway, kind of a boring video. Sorry about that. I thought I had a better one. But anyway, her ability to defend herself, I think, was pretty limited. Where am I now? Yeah, there we go. So when you see all the screaming, indeed, on the fraud and seeing the rebuttals, right? Probably not going to work. Like I said, I think you've got about 5-6 months now of audits and trickle stories, a kind of rolling thunder approach. And I think by the time the midterms are there, they're going to have caught a lot of these. Now, the best part's coming up now, and this is this reciprocity piece, right? Reciprocity. So authority, scarcity, reciprocity. Really important here, and that's the, in Bitcoin, we think of reciprocity as a P2P environment, right? We do things, it's Christian, right? Treat others as you would be treated, the golden rule, if you will. and watching how Trump used this reciprocity piece. So this is not quite the same as the issue with the fraud and citizenship and voting, right? This is more specific. This is more about how we treat each other economically, how we treat each other as people who we're looking out for. So Scott Jennings says, moment of the night, Democrats refusing to stand to affirm their allegiance to American citizens over illegal aliens will be signature moment of the speech. Trump nailed them. Indeed, here he says, he absolutely roasts Democrats to their faces. Hakeem looks disgusted under Biden at this corrupt and his corrupt partners in Congress. It reached a breaking point. 11,000 murderers came into the country, and you allowed that to happen. I'm also confronting one of the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing cost of healthcare caused by you. So
For decades before I came.
I'll have to redo it, I think, and then I'll put it back on.
Along, we had the exact opposite. From trade to healthcare, from energy to immigration, everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New scam, open borders for everyone. They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. They were murderers, 11,888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen. And record-setting inflation that cost the typical family $34,000 in just a speck of time. Now the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters.
Maybe she's taking the fat shot.
Suddenly used the word affordability, a word. They just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that they caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. They knew their statements were a lie. They knew it. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. We are doing really well. Those prices are plummeting downward. The price of eggs is down 60%, Madam Secretary. Thank you. The cost of chicken, butter, fruit, hotels, automobiles, rent is lower today than when I took office by a lot. And even beef, which was very high, is starting to come down significantly. Just hold on a little while. We're getting it down. And soon you will see numbers that few people would think were possible to achieve just a short time ago. Nobody can believe when they see the kind of numbers, and especially energy, when they see energy going down to numbers like that, they cannot believe it. It's like another big tax cut. I'm also confronting one of the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing cost of health care caused by you. Since the passage of
So very reciprocal type of rhetoric, right? And when he goes after, you should be ashamed of yourselves for not standing up to applaud the protection of American citizens. Trump says the Democrats, Republicans responded by chanting USA, Democrats booed. Now, here's where Trump also brought in, of course, Irina, Irina's mother. You remember Irina was the girl murdered in Charlotte, North Carolina. And Trump here lambasting them for not standing up to honor
pro-crime Democrat politicians again and again. We're honored to be joined tonight by a woman who's been through hell, Anya Zarutska. In 2022, she and her beautiful daughter, so beautiful, what a beautiful young woman, Irina fled, war-torn war-torn Ukraine to live with relatives near Charlotte, North Carolina. And by the way, what's going on with Charlotte? Last summer, 23-year-old Irina was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget. There were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal, set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zaretsky, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand? How do you not stand? I'm asking this Congress to pass tough legislation to ensure that violent and dangerous repeat offenders are put behind bars, and importantly, that they stay there.
And indeed, here's Mark Belling saying that was a major gamble by Trump. If the Democrats had stood up, they would have won up Trump, and his attempt to make them look nuts would have backfired. He gambled that they wouldn't, and he was right. So here's another example of them not standing.
So tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
And right here, he's got months of footage and months of attack ads and months of content that can be used and recycled again and again and again and again. Very powerful, flaming. They didn't stand. And it was a gamble. They wouldn't do it. It could have been easy. There was an easy out for this, but chose not to do that. And so another powerful moment indeed here as well. Ag nationalists saying the same thing. Asking those present to stand if they believe the first duty of American politicians to protect the American people and not illegal aliens was a Trump masterstroke. Even more incredible was the fact that not a single Democrat stood up. So that's just really powerful reciprocation, really powerful Americans looking out for Americans, really persuasive stuff. Seeing that they're not looking out for Americans and affirming it, even if it's political theater, is a devastating frame to keep them in. Now, Trump went further with the reciprocation, of course, and that's when he started getting into the economy pieces, the affordability piece, and I think he did really well. And again, this is the kind of stuff you're going to hear straight through 2026. Trump is going to be selling the golden age, and the golden age begins with ways to help people save money. Here's Bill Ackman. 46 million working Americans don't have a 401k plan. Trump yesterday talked about reciprocating federal matching funds, 1,000 US trash tokens for everyone who puts 1,000 US trash tokens into the market for their children. And here's the video of.
Since I took office, the typical 401k balance is up by at least $30,000. That's a lot of money. We have millions and millions of people, because the stock market has done so well, setting all those records, your 401ks are way up. Yet half of all of working Americans still do not have access to a retirement plan with matching contributions from an employer. To remedy this gross disparity, I'm announcing that next year my administration will give these often forgotten American workers, great people, the people that built our country, access to the same type of retirement plan offered to every federal worker. We will match your contribution with up to $1,000 each year. Since I took office, the typical
So powerful reciprocation on that. And within the same speech, he talked about the end of income tax as well. Again, a very powerful frame, helping Americans save money. Here he is talking about the end of income tax, which he mentioned in the speech. He brought it up again. Donald Trump confirmed tonight the State of the Union he plans to use tariffs to eliminate the income tax. Trump exposed the only reason we're still paying an income tax in America is because U.S. politicians are paid off by foreign countries to not mandate tariffs. And so here's his argument, which he made yesterday as well, but reiterating it because he's been consistent with it. And remember, consistency is a part of the equation, as you can see here, consistency being the last element of the principles of Trump being consistent here is important to point out.
The big price is tariffs. And he'd speak like that, but he was right. And then around in the early 1900s, they switched over stupidly to, frankly, an income tax. And you know why? Because countries were putting a lot of pressure on America. We don't want to pay tariffs. Please don't. You know, they, believe me, they control our politicians. If you look at the kind of numbers that these guys make then and now, but we had a commission meeting in the, I think it was 1887. Think of this problem. We were so rich. We had so much money. We didn't know what to do. So they set up a blue ribbon commission on tariffs. And the sole purpose is what to do with all the money we had. We were so rich because we were taxing other people for coming in and taking our jobs. And China does it. That's what China did. If you want to open a factory and sell cars, if you build a factory here or have a factory, they don't take our cars. They wouldn't take our cars. But if you build a plant in China, you can do that. Elon did that. By the way, Elon is great. That guy is such a great guy. I think you're a fan of Elon. He is from a different planet. He's the greatest guy. That rocket coming in.
And indeed, he goes even
Unless
further.
they pay a big price.
He goes even further. He announced one of the most important things, right? Trump said major tech companies must provide their own power plants for data centers constructed. I think this will help neutralize that attack line against him. Trump's billionaires, all of his billionaires. Making all these billionaires pay for their own energy is right in line with what we want to see in Bitcoin. Of course, as you understand, Bitcoin will always co-locate with these AI data centers. You're going to see it across the spectrum. Here, breaking a huge announcement, President Trump reveals a deal with AI data centers to pay for their own electricity so it doesn't raise the bills of America.
I have negotiated the new ratepayer protection pledge. You know what that is? We're telling the major tech companies that they have the obligation to provide for their own power needs. They can build their own power plants as part of their factory so that no one's prices will go up. And in many cases, prices of electricity will go down for the community and very substantially down. This is a unique strategy never used in this country before. We have an old grid. It could never handle the kind of numbers, the amount of electricity that's needed. So I'm telling them they can build their own plant. They're going to produce their own electricity. It will ensure the company's ability to get electricity while at the same time lowering prices of electricity for you, and could be very substantial for all of you cities and towns. You're going to see some good things happen over the next number of years. Another pillar of the American dream that has been under attack is have negotiated.
Here's and at the same time, you've got Bernie saying ban more of them, right? You're already seeing the mentally ill Picasso. I don't want data centers. I want better roads, blah, blah, blah. Phil Labonte says, I want data centers. I want each of them to have their own nuclear reactor to provide power, not drawing from the grid. Intelligence has made man successful in a hostile world. I want more intelligence because intelligence will provide all the things these clowns want. Indeed. Now, you know, Trump does the reciprocity thing very well, and I think energy is a big part of it. But Trump went even further. Now we have to continue to analyze all of these different ways of persuading, social and liking, and that's where Trump, again, you know, masterful on scarcity, on authority, on reciprocity, of taking the American voter into account, of valuing the American voter, of being the American president. But just on the social and liking aspect, just on being friendly and being human. Trump also shone through yesterday. Of course, here's the Erica Kirk moment, right? Erica Kirk and Charlie Kirk here talking about what happened during a State of the Union speech. President Trump stops. Last year, Charlie Kirk was violently murdered by an assassin. He asked Erica Kirk to stand. Cameras zoom. Half the chamber rises fast. The applause is loud. The tension is louder. Then he drives it home. We must totally reject political violence of any kind. Not just a tribute, not just a guest in the gallery, a moment, a signal, a line drawn on live television. And what do you notice about Eric?
So last year, Charlie was violently murdered by an assassin and martyred, really martyred for his beliefs. His wonderful wife, Erica, is with us tonight. Erica, please stand.
And, you know, to even make it, you know, not sad, there are other social moments. Of course, here's one of the best when he had the American hockey team show up. Dave Portnoy has an altered version of the video. It's great, really excellent.
The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
For the first time ever anywhere, the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So much potential.
So he was using contrast all night. A lot of people picked up so many contrast pictures on the internet today, and here's one of them. I'll show you. I have a whole bunch of the contrast pictures. I'll show you later. But just watching one of these fucking journalists wearing his mask, and, and the NHL players are the American hockey team players, is really a chef's kiss. I mean, this is it right here. We're up against mask wearing sludge people, mentally ill retards against actual athletes, and, you know, happy people that aren't even political. They just want to play hockey and win gold medals. Excellent stuff indeed here. If you haven't noticed the total crash out that in particular females are having over the hockey visit of the team to Trump's office, as well as the phone call he had with them after the game. A lot of bitter women. Apollo Anton Ono, one of the great American Olympians. Wow, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, because he announced that Connor Hellebuck, this goalie here who saved that puck, plays for the Winnipeg Jets in Canada. He's not even sure if he's going to be able to go back to Canada. They're going to hate him. All the Canadian teams, by the way, trying to strip. So Toronto's captain is American. He was on the American team. They're trying to strip him of his captaincy. It's too good. It's too good. And Brittany Thompson says, "Shut up, Apollo. You know this is a fucking joke. Glad to know you're a MAGA bitch. Unfollow." They're really crashing out over this hockey thing. It's too good. Pericles thinking, you know, Molly Ploufkins, fuck the U.S. women's hockey team, fuck the U.S. men's hockey team. Seriously, the men's hockey team can take those gold medals and shove them up their ass. Pericles saying the Republicans are going to win the midterms because of this. Indeed, it's creating that exact contrast. And then Trump went even further, more of these human, likable social moments. Trump added more of his Trump theater effect. This is pure P.T. Barnum. Like, this is pure Americana. This is P.T. Barnum mixed with George Washington, mixed with Abraham Lincoln, mixed with Richard Nixon. It's the whole gamut of only American, American archetypes that are all blended within Trump. He's absolutely the P.T. Barnum. It's as if the founding fathers missed the hype machine and the P.T. Barnum in order to further galvanize the country in its founding era. And Trump seems to imbibe those skills. So as part of the P.T. Barnum thing, he had a little surprise television reunion. Trump surprised the wife of the jailed Venezuelan political prisoner by bringing him into the room as one for the history books, indeed. Let me see if I can find that one, because it was also great. I don't think I didn't have the video. No, I don't think I can find the video that simply. I couldn't see it before, but it does exist. Anyway, and then finally, going back to our frame of the principles of persuasion, right? We've seen Trump act presidential. We saw him use scarcity, valuing the U.S. citizenship, valuing voting. We saw him value government services and prioritizing Americans and showing that American citizenship is worth something. It's not just something anyone can go claim. Reciprocity was all about his golden age economics, about how we're going to create efficient markets that will help people get rich. Savings plans, where he's going to be donating or contributing as much as the parents to child savings plans, as well as the function of the energy companies and the AI data companies and Trump's billionaires creating extra energy so that all of American dreams can come true. Social liking, we saw him function there with all of these human moments, these human touchstones, the P.T. Barnum production quality. And then finally, consistency, right? Consistency remains one of the principles of persuasion. We've heard Trump be very consistent over the years. He's barely ever changed his point of view. He loves America. And he comes off as entirely credible and not pandering when he talks about it. And his finale...
Because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. And when God needs a nation to work his miracles, he knows exactly who to ask. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
And, that's a typical stump speech by Trump. Trump often finishes his speeches with that same or very similar invocation. And you're going to hear that a lot over the next few months. You're going to hear him continue to repeat that speech. He's going to go to that ending many, many times. But consistency is persuasive, and selling the golden age is what he's going to do for the 2026 midterms. You're going to have other people on the fraud, on the prosecutions, on all of these things. Trump is going to become the #1 salesman for the golden age. And I can see him removing himself from all the dirty business that's going to have to go on, including space drops and mopping up all of this Epstein stuff and going after some of the criminals. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now, what's really great, as I've said, is we had all this contrast, and contrast remains also one of the most persuasive ways you can present an argument. It's partly why I start every day with the NPC News. Contrast is better than me explaining to you every single day why something is retarded in the news. It's better to just show it against something that's not retarded, and you yourself will see the retardation. It will come through. So contrast is a very powerful frame. And I've created this whiteboard. Again, we're doing the 2 whiteboards in honor of Scott Adams today. He always loved his 2 whiteboard days. So again, I've explained this one to you many times, this whiteboard, but you can see the stencil I used for the blue circle in the middle here is the same size. It's the exact same blue circle. And then next to it, I put 4 tiny black circles. And next to this one, I put 4 large black circles. And what it does is it alters your perception of the blue circle. They're the same size. And so contrast ends up teaching a lot better than most techniques. Seeing 2 things next to each other will force in your mind the observation instead of me telling you. And that remains a powerful frame and a powerful way to persuade. And Trump used it to full effect yesterday. Here's Cernovich saying, Trump's State of the Union speech, American greatness, heroism, protection for Americans, respect for mothers, children invested in the future. Democrats refuse to stand for American citizens, said they support illegals and fraud and crime. And that is exactly the trap Trump laid for them, exactly the Trump they walked into. Many of these types of images online this morning, the 2 Americas were on display tonight. You see this contrast again and again. Many people saw it, right? The screaming and the heckling and the vileness and the ugliness versus dignity. Here you see it again with hockey, same idea. Patriots smiling on and receiving recognition for American greatness, while spiteful foreigners who hate our country pout and shout from the sidelines. You couldn't sum up the divide any more perfectly than this. Now, the even better part of the contrast was the Democrat rebuttal, just absolute perfection. Here's a Spanberger, right? So they couldn't have picked a better one. Former CIA agent, the woman who couldn't even bring herself to condemn her AG running partner in Virginia for wishing the death on the children of his opponents. Don't forget that was him. And so here she is, and unbelievably, they gave her this job. It couldn't have been more perfect. And here, listen to her try to sell her vision and compare it, first of all, to just the Trump P.T. Barnum thing, and you'll see the contrast.
1705, the people of the Virginia colony gathered here to take on the extraordinary task of the United States was founded on the idea that ordinary people could reject the unacceptable excesses of poor leadership, band together to demand better of their government, and create a nation that would be an example for the world.
I mean, just so terrible. Abigail Spanger's response to Sojunan's first minute features jarring edits, creepy, forced Joker smiles, and the inexplicable decision to include applause beats from a tiny audience. And, really what you see is just scripted teleprompter stuff, very low charisma, very low authority, very low leadership. You see exactly what she is, a bureaucrat, a lifelong bureaucrat working for the CIA. And you don't really see the kind of skill Cernovich picks up on. It looks like something from a horror movie, bloodless, lifeless, a vessel for something else. The uncanny valley. And here, remember who she is. This is the person delivering the Democrat response. Abigail Spanberger is an insane and corrupt liar from the CIA. She's legitimately evil. I don't know if she's legitimately evil, but indeed here, Christian Hines, it's laughable watching Spanberger complain about tax hikes and affordability when her party has proposed over 50 new taxes in Virginia since they took power 6 weeks ago. So that was the official response, right? And remember, even her going out there and lecturing people about the foundation of America and the founding fathers, it was just so stupid, because it's like as if Democrats care about that stuff. It's not persuasive. That's like Republican talking points. If you're going to be a Republican, be a Republican. Don't go with the talking points that Democrats don't want to hear because they're Republican talking points. The founding fathers. Trump is out there reliving the founding fathers, and she's talking about them and what they wanted and this and that, with her terrible fake smile and her awful body language. And indeed, but that wasn't the only part of the rebuttal. So again, remember the authority, right? Contrast, and remember, persuasion is authority. Trump acting very presidential. Of course, they announce his entry, which is what they do, right? That comes from the Parliament tradition. When and I was a part of this. This happens in Parliament when you do a speech from the throne. what you do is you send in the way it works, right? Trump is invocated, right? Someone comes, the speaker or a speaker or an usher or someone comes in and says, "The President of the United States of America," and then he walks into Congress. So it's a little reversed in the parliamentary system. It happens in the Senate or the House of Lords in England. And there's a guy whose job it is called the gentleman usher of the Black Rod. He walks over and he taps on the door of the House and summons them to the upper chamber. And there'll be a king there or the governor general who will make the speech. And so it's somewhat based on that. That's why he's introduced that way. So there's a lot of pomp and ceremony that goes along with it, all of which to denote the authority of the role and the institutions. What did the Democrats go with yesterday? It's excellent. It's really good. It's a perfect contrast.
I'm fresh out of an ICE prison in Minneapolis. I've been arrested 3 times by ICE over absurdity, over us being ourselves, over me singing songs like, "Hey, Mr. Tangerine Man, get rid of brown people for me. I'm Aryan white. There ain't no place I'm going to." And then all of a sudden, he's not ready for primetime player ICE agents with 2 weeks of training come after me. I got arrested in Portland. I got arrested in Minneapolis, and the last...
I can't listen to that guy's yelling anymore, but it's more of this stuff here. This is what they had, right? Here it is.
I'm a mother. I am a physician, and I have a flag. And I am the proud representative for Oregon's 3rd Congressional District. Yes, thank you, thank you. And tonight, I defy Trump and his authoritarian project by standing in joyful, radical, peaceful resistance with the Portland Frog Brigade.
It's a 0. It's a 0. It's a strong 0. Now, it even gets better than this, right? Because there was multiple counter events. And of course, Joey Reid has to get involved. Now, I'm going to use a great Scott Adams frame here, and I'll never forget this one. When he started imagining, like all the Democrats, when they started to swear, and they're like, "Oh, Trump swears," right? Every now and again, because Trump's very much a New Yorker. Let's never forget when Trump brings out the New York, it's probably his most persuasive persona or character that he has in his toolbox of characters that he pulls out. And his John, what's his one again? John, what's his name again? I think his kid has got this John Barron, right? So he's got all these characters that he plays. I've got some more stuff from Walter Kern about the characters that Trump plays. But the characters, one of the characters that I love is when the New York guy comes out. The New York guy is pretty close to the real Trump, I think, in a lot of ways, but he can really put on the New York thing and swear. He's really good at swearing. Now, he uses it judiciously. He uses it at the right time. He uses it for punctuation, as any good New Yorker would. You don't just want to say, swear words all the time. They'll take away their meaning and their power. Now, Scott Adams always had this sort of fiction in his head, because that's where Dilbert comes from. He sort of imagines what happens in boardrooms and meetings, and then imagines how you create the circumstances that comes out of those boardrooms and meetings. And so he had a lot of fun imagining Democrats listening to their consultants saying, "Well, Trump swears a lot, so we gotta start swearing." And Joy Reid, one of these swearers, and all these people who are swearing. Now, the best frame that Scott used to underline this, it's one of the funniest ones I've ever heard, and I still laugh about it when I think about it. He says, "Yeah, okay, we're gonna go and do the swearing thing now, okay." And his analogy was, it's like, you see, Einstein. And it's like, okay, Einstein. All right, we gotta speak a lot of German, and we gotta put our hair up, and we gotta make our hair all crazy, and then it will be just like Einstein. You can't just go out and swear and then it works. You've got to have the whole package. You've got to be the performer. You've got to be the P.T. Barnum. You've got to know how to use the swear words. Just swearing is like just speaking German and having crazy hair and pretending you're Hitler or you're Einstein. It doesn't work that way. And here's Joy Reid doing her best. It's really classic stuff. Thank you, Joy Reid. Thank you.
Attention all MAGA trolls. And with apologies to the pastor who gave the invocation, your bullshit is not welcome here. And to paraphrase one of my favorite actors in the world, Robert De Niro, I'm going to slightly paraphrase him. Fuck y'all. We're here.
How did that go? And Paul Zabula says exactly what Scott was saying. Somebody told Democrats to start cursing law. That was a mistake. They're not very good at it. De Niro, of course, was at the State of the Swamp event too. And, you know, just look at his persuasion here. It's another 0.
The bottom line is that I feel betrayed by my country.
Oh.
It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to return to the values that gave us our strength and humanity. If you want our leaders to be accountable, if you're devoted to the Constitution and the rule of law, if you want the United States of America to be worthy of your love, be ready to take this to the streets together, and we will take our country back.
Mob, it'll go with the mob. And then here's just to show you just how flat it is. Here's Warnock doing his best. Now, all the things I told you about persuasion, contrast, presidential, reciprocal, sociable, all of it creative, all of it getting people drawn into Trump theater, the P.T. Barnum aspect of it all, the whole circus conductor, all of it at once. And here Warnock's answer.
Americans are literally being disappeared off of the streets by masked men jumping out of unmarked cars. Donald Trump knows that he is losing. We heard tonight the rumblings of a desperate man who's trying to present the best case he can for the midterms. It was half lies, half grievances. He knows that he is quickly losing power. And so a signature part of his plan, as he expressed it tonight, was to try to find some way to pass the so-called SAVE Act. They certainly aren't trying to save America. They're trying to save their power at any cost. Americans are.
So, of course, he went with mind reading, and as Mayor Naufel says, nothing new here, standard partisan rhetoric, just a 0. No persuasion, no ability to move the needle with that at all. And exactly, it was extremely contrasting, right? The contrast was very powerful. Here, Dems and the State of the Union tonight looked like they got hit with a surprise pop quiz on how to look presidential while your party is actively imploding 101. And they clearly didn't study. They sat there blinking like Windows 95 trying to open a 4K video, total system freeze. Every time the camera panned over, you could practically hear the dial-up modem noises coming from their section. By the end, they were shuffling out like they just found out the open bar was actually just seltzer water and existential dread. Faces screaming 404, confidence not found. They've got less momentum right now than a deflated campaign balloon in February, completely lost and totally cooked. And that's, confirmation bias, whatever you want to call it. What I saw was more than ever, just like you typically, when I'm in Canada and I'm talking with Canadians, just because the amount of change that's happened in the world since Trump came along and since Bitcoin came along and everything that's happened in Canada and the world since I left Canada and went on this crazy ride with Bitcoin and this American revolution. You can see Canada, just like, style becomes obvious, like fashion from 10 years earlier or 20 years earlier. When you look at a picture from 20 years ago, you can see the entropy, right? You can see the difference between now and then. When I see a picture from the 90s, for example, it brings back a lot of nostalgic feelings sometimes, but you can tell how much things have changed. And like fashion, like an old movie, like an old picture, you can see the passage of time that happened between then and now. And when I'm in Canada and I speak with most Canadians, it's like I've gone back in time. It's like I'm looking at an old picture. It's like I'm looking at some other era. And that's why it's very difficult to even argue with Canadians, because if someone was living 20 years ago and they showed you a picture of 20 years ago, They wouldn't know the difference. You can't tell them, well, in 20 years, this, the frosted tips aren't going to be a big look. Like, people aren't going to do that anymore. And so when you actually have that space between the time that happens between the entropy that sets in, the decay in style, the decay in point of view, and you have something new that takes its place, because there's always something new. There's always a new style. You have to have some kind of style. There's always a new way of speaking. There's always a new way of thinking. Democrats, for the first time, it didn't really appear that way in Trump's first term. When Biden was in, we were all just living under that dystopia. But now that Trump has over a year as president, we can actually start to see, after all we've been through, after all we learned in the Biden administration, after all that happened in the first Trump administration, after all the growing we've experienced as Bitcoiners, we can see after this time that people who still think in those frames, it's like the old pictures, it's like the old style. They're just out of fashion. And it doesn't just necessarily come around again. They look kind of like people from a bygone era, like idiots from a bygone era. And so you can see indeed that many people picked up on this as well. That might have been the most effect Trump's speech has ever given, simply because of how the Democrats refused to stand and clap for even the most common sense issue, new level of protest. He let them hang themselves. They legitimately looked like lunatics. Now, just think about what Trump is controlling from here on out, right? So Trump does this speech. He's shown everyone how to corner Democrats on all these issues. He's shown and modeled his leadership. He's contrasted with Democrats. He's given the policy proposals that will be used and sold from now into the midterms, SAVE Act, the energy abundance, the control of the Federal Reserve, which is about to come into his hands in order to juice markets and pump everyone up for the 2026 midterms, and really solve the number one problem, which is affordability, right? It is 100% affordability. Number two is the mental illness and polarization of the country, but that can be fixed with, success. Winning makes better chemistry and brings people together. Losing doesn't. And so Trump embracing this winning aspect is a big part of what he's selling. Now, remember, he's going to be staying above the fray. He's going to be selling the golden age, but he's also going to be controlling the flow of information, especially with the Epstein files, especially with the 9/11 pieces that are going to be coming out shortly. Trump knows what powder he's kept dry. He knows what ammo he has. He's got the audits, like I said, coming forward, but you're already seeing the traps come out. You're already seeing the storylines that are going to dominate, that he is in control of. He's a bit like, I don't know if you guys ever played tennis or a racket sport. So when I was young and I played racket sports, I always thought I was playing well if I was making all of these really crazy athletic gets, right? I stretched out and I got the ball. I stretched out, I did a backhand. Because I like baseball, so I like catching baseballs in all kinds of dramatic fashions, diving for a baseball. You kind of hope for that when you're playing baseball. You want to make a great catch. So you're always trying to, not always trying, but if you have an opportunity, you embrace it and you look athletic and you show off a little. And that's kind of why we play sports. So I remember in the racket sports, because I was not a big racket sport player, I did play some badminton on my high school team and played quite a bit of tennis. I had a lot of tennis courts near me, and I had friends who played with coaches, so I would play with them and learn quite a bit. And all these various games, pickleball these days. I'm pretty good at racket sports without being unbelievably good. Pretty good casual player of all of them, or at least I look good when I play. And I thought that all these athletic shots sort of made me good, but once I realized that if you're making the athletic shots all the time in tennis or in badminton, it's because you're losing. It's because you're losing. If you're good, you're barely moving because you're controlling the play. The good players hardly have to waste energy running around the court because they're dominating the play. They're showing, they're tiring out the opponent by making them run from one side of the court to the other. And I was a kid when I figured it out, but I said, wait a minute here, being athletic and running around and getting every ball and trying really hard, and I'm still losing. So why am I losing? And I would say to myself, just looking at my skills, and I would see someone else who barely moved, barely got to the birdie playing badminton. And I would say, well, I could beat that person. And then I'd find out that no matter how athletic I was during the game, I couldn't beat them because they were controlling the flow of play. They were controlling where the birdie ended up and making me run and waste my energy until finally you make a mistake. And so Trump is going to be able to do that going forward with all of this Epstein stuff and all of the information he's keeping in order to time the delivery of it all, which is why I've been telling people from the very beginning, trust Trump on timing of all this stuff. I know people wanted to go faster. I know they want people arrested all the time, but there is a certain amount of timing that isn't under our control. Of course, we want everything right away, but that's not the way movies work. I know people get all excited in your intense thriller. What's at the end of the movie? I want to see the end. Well, you've got to just watch the movie. And you can't speed it up. You can't fast forward. You're in a movie theater. You're in a huge show. You're part of the greatest show on earth. And so now we see that indeed Trump's strategy is showing some advancement. Indeed, we see Bill Gates now admitting that he had affairs with Russian women, apologizing to staff over his Epstein ties. That's a big difference to what we heard from Bill Gates before when he said, oh, it was just to talk about philanthropy. Now he's not going to various speeches. Bill Gates apologizes to his foundation staff over ties to Epstein and multiple affairs with Russian women that Epstein discovered. I did nothing illicit, he said. I saw nothing illicit, Gates said. Maybe that's true. Oilfield Rando says, I don't know if it's illegal to sneak your wife doxycycline colada because you pina colada because you brought her the clap from Russian hookers. Probably in a few states it's illegal. Not sure which ones, but you're probably going to see more of this going forward. Honestly, no one saw the fact that Bill Gates at this point is still having sex with his wife. So exactly, I think Trump is controlling all of this stuff, and you're going to see more of it come out. You're already seeing it. Remember Trump's Nobel Prize, the guy who gave Obama his Nobel Prize, former Norwegian Prime Minister and Nobel Committee Chair, Thorsten Jagland, admitted to hospital following alleged suicide attempt after a corruption probe was charged with corruption. After a corruption probe was charged with corruption linked to Epstein, Unseen says, and people wonder why they don't give Trump the Peace Prize. The people giving out the Peace Prize are not good people indeed, and that is one of the big stories that's here, right? Trump controls this information. You see it's already happening. A former Prime Minister of Norway, the guy giving away the fake Nobel Prizes. Imagine the guy who gave Obama his ridiculous 2009 Nobel Peace Prize is just another pedal biker who is in the Epstein files and had done something, I guess, so bad he decided to try and kill himself. So you can imagine what's about to come out for these people and how much of an advance Trump has on all of this stuff. And he knows what is in these files. So you can bet he's going to be managing this going forward. And you'll see. Now, these are two really funny ways of understanding Trump from Walter Kern, and just showing you what you're dealing with in terms of persuasion. I love both of them. And he says, I also love how Trump constantly alludes to an alternate timeline in which he is not president and various things suck, hypothetically. It's the kind of statesmanship after the stale. It is true. I've never noticed that before, but I love that he does it. And then here, the other thing he does, right? Trump not only tells you what he thinks, he tells you what he thinks others think of what he thinks. Then he tells you what he thinks of what they think of him at levels never thought possible. And then he tells you he thinks you're good looking. Only if you are, though, indeed. So Trump, indeed, we're seeing these incredible persuasion skills on display every single day. We're seeing him, I think, invite us all to this P.T. Barnum Meets the Founding Fathers. It's Barnum and Bailey Circus, circa 1776. Barnum and Bailey circa 1776 is the way I think of it now. And it's going to be all about the golden age, all about the end of these and unbelievably sick deep state people. He didn't enter any Democrat frames yesterday. Let them underline that their point of view is just mental illness. It's nothing else besides mental illness. It's not real opinions. It's just hatred and spite. And the contrast was very powerful. And here's just a taste of what we're about to see with Japan, Trump's huge partner in this golden age, Japan's new leader to make nuclear power the center of the energy strategy. Japan is going all in on nuclear. Japan's PM is set to keep nuclear power at the core of its energy policy. She's pushing for acceleration and advanced nuclear technology. She aims to make the country 100% self-sufficient via nuclear energy. She wants energy security over climate ambition, nuclear over renewables, and national industry over global corporations. So they will become a major trend, with nuclear set to be the main beneficiary. You're seeing the American system come out of this with the whole Jane Street story about Bitcoin as well. I've been telling you for a long time, don't be surprised that Bitcoin's price is being manipulated. Trump is up against a system, the system heavily connected to, of course, we heard the SBFs of the world, the Arabella advisors, directly associated with all of these sludge people with the City of London and all of these banking cartels. And we can see that Trump, once he gets control of the Federal Reserve, once he really has the capacity to push this American system, he's got Saudi Arabia, he's got UAE, he's got Japan, he's got the most important allies he needs right now, the most important allies in the world being Japan and Saudi Arabia for him. He'll have Modi over in a few days as well, of course, as well. So between Modi, between India, between Japan, between everything he's built in the foreign sense, soon Russia is going to be part of it. And you can see right now that there is a golden age here. It's ready to burst from the seams. We're going to see it the minute all of the manipulation is exhausted. It's about to be exhausted as well. Trump is on the downhill trend now. And I don't mean in terms of persuasion, in terms of how much easier it is going to be for him to persuade. He had to climb uphill. We saw from that Vanity Fair article all of the crazy shit he's been through over the years. Now he is in his last years of this mission, and it looks like he will be able to enjoy the last years of this mission. We pray and hope. Of course, we never know what the future offers. The future is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Trump has been warning us about a world without him. He warned us in a speech last night, or at least that was a sense that there was a world without him that he perceived, and that his time in the story is coming to an end. He's down to just 3 years left, not even really, if you think about it. The good news is he's put all things in place that will help us. He's modeled his authority. He's shown us how to use it. He's shown us exactly how to use the scarcity that is true in our economy, the value of our citizenship, the value of our contributions. He's shown us reciprocity when it comes to an economy that is about building and mutually benefiting, not what we saw from the Epstein files, which is how to fuck people over and suck their money dry for the benefit of a few bankers and a few heavily connected people, the Jane Street manipulation types. All of this is going to go away, and we're going to see the social aspects, the likable aspects, of course, and Trump's consistency on these messages play out. And his opponents are absolutely bathing in mental illness now. So I think a huge, huge win and a great speech, and indeed his calling card for the 2026 midterms is, I think, ready to go. So that was what I had on the speech. Highly persuasive stuff, indeed. Highly, highly persuasive. What more can you ask for? If Trump sacks the income tax, he will be absolute furthest thing from a tyrant. He's going to do it. Income tax is a burden on exports. He's getting rid of it, I promise you. Stephen A. Smith is going to run for some point in office in the future. I bet probably will win too. If Democrats were smart, they would listen to him. Yeah, they'll cheat him. They're not going to let him win in 2028 nomination. He'll try to run and he'll get railroaded just like the other ones. Remember, the Democrats, the party itself is even sicker than their constituents and the people who follow them. He's absolutely going to get the same treatment Bernie Sanders got. He's uncontrollable, so he has no hope or chance in that future. He's worse than RFK Jr. in some ways. So I don't expect Stephen A. Smith to be able to break the control. Remember what they did to the primary process. They destroyed something that had been sacrosanct in American politics since Kennedy, which was the primary process, which forced candidates to go to Iowa and New Hampshire first in order to have some form of local support to build momentum before the big primaries, just so you couldn't get away with ignoring the small states. in general. And so it was a Midwest and New England small state that you have to go to first and meet lots of people. And there's a huge premium because you get momentum out of those. So even though there's low voter counts, so that low electoral college numbers, it's not that influential in the end on who they choose as a leader, but it's symbolically and in perception and momentum important to go to the small states first to force the candidates into those environments, because otherwise they would have no reason to do it. So that's why Trump has always guaranteed the order that he guarantees that Iowa and New Hampshire for Republicans anyway will be first, because it's an important factor. And they were willing to change even that to guarantee that Biden won, because they tried in 2020 and Biden, of course, lost in Iowa but had to cheat to win. And from then on, they didn't take chances anymore. So that's 3 presidential elections nominations that have not gone according to script. Hillary Clinton was a cheat. The Biden was a cheat, and then the 2024 with Kamala, they just installed her. No one voted for her. She's never received 1 vote of approval. So there's absolutely no way Stephen Smith is going to make it. And I believe he's going to run. I think he's going to be a great candidate. Well, not great. He's got a ceiling too, right? We're dealing with someone trying to do a pivot from television sports, where he's great, a one in a lifetime talent, but I've seen him already make enough political mistakes to know that he still has a few skills missing from the skill stack, which he can get. I think he could get them, but he's got to go into heavy training to get that. I've seen him. I forget which one I saw him make. He had a weird reaction to something Trump did, and I went, "Oh, that's an amateur right there," and still lots to learn. So he could get there, but I don't think the Democrats are ever going to treat him fairly. So. There you go. People getting free shit hate it when someone takes their free shit. Indeed. So we got the rake man. Let's see what folks are saying in the Rumble chat. He's using his. Oh yeah. Can we access on X the thread that you've put together, or is it set to private bookmarks or something? No, I'm just using, as CB Van said, it's the likes. So I don't think I can share them with you. And I normally wouldn't do that, but I had so many videos today that the memory on my computer was crashing. So if I put them in one window, I won't have to change as much, but I don't think I can share them. And what I do is I unlike them all and then re-like them in the order that I want them. So it's actually tedious. That's why I don't want to do it too much. It's actually a tedious affair. I don't like it that much. Oh, there's Hank. He's in the house. How you doing, Hank? I'll get to the comments later. Let's see what Hank is saying.
Hey, Nolan.
We're up late. How did the broadcast watch party go?
I mean, surprisingly fun, although I felt admittedly underwhelmed by what we heard last night. I felt like we were watching Michael Scott host the Dundies, but for America, than we were seeing an actual State of the Union address.
I'll try to change your perception of it when I come on your show later.
Good. I'm excited because I was there, and I just I've never seen so many awards given at one of these things. We actually looked it up, and it was like the first Medal of Honor or Medal of Freedom ever given at a State of the Union was also done by Trump in 2020. So I guess handing out awards at these is kind of his thing. It was something. What did your thoughts?
Arnhem. Yeah, well, my thoughts were it was again Trump leaning into his refounding father frame, and alongside George Washington type of thing, but like the missing component of the refounding fathers, because this is a frame that I thought of a lot in the 2024 election. So you had Elon as kind of a Benjamin Franklin, and you had Vivek as kind of a Thomas Jefferson, and you had RFK as kind of a John Adams, and you had a lot of these archetypes that fit the founding fathers, but the one that was missing was P.T. Barnum. And the whole circus promotion. And so Trump sort of imbibing the George Washington leadership qualities plus the theatrical stuff. And that's where all these awards come from and all that stuff. So I saw pure Trump theater again, and a lot of contrast and a lot of persuasion mixed in. So this morning, that's what we did. We went over the principles of persuasion. I'll share with you what they look like. It's a whiteboard I've used many times, and it comes from a fellow named Bob Cialdini, who worked for Hillary Clinton's campaign. And it's in fact why Scott Adams got involved in politics. So
there we go.
In there.
Yeah.
So there it is. The principles of persuasion. I don't know if I can get a better version
I mean,
of it.
you know, handing out a bunch of awards is a pretty persuasive way to convince everybody that everything is going great. You don't hand out awards when things are bad, right? You hand out awards when things are good. So
precisely. And it creates contrast. Contrast is a powerful frame, but basically he hit all of these notes, the principles of persuasion from Bob Cialdini, probably the most made the most money in marketing advice and consulting since the 1980s. So the godfather of what works in persuasion and what doesn't. So most marketers end up coming to him. I think if you're in like marketing school or whatever, you have to read the Bob Cialdini's principles of persuasion. But there they are. And in my analysis today, I just looked at how Trump hit all 6 of these buttons pretty consistently, and I ordered it that way. So that's what I saw.
Well, I got to say, I wasn't too persuaded or moved by the rhetoric last night, but you, Nolan, are much better at persuading me. So I'll be interested to see what you've got in store with us today on Roxham TV, because we're going to be covering that and a lot of other things, including more on the Epstein files. But the main event this morning, of course, is the State of the Union. So I'm excited to get into it with you in just a bit. I'll let you wrap up here, but everybody stay tuned. Nolan will be back with us here at Roxham TV News to break more of it down. So I'll see you in a bit, guys.
Hank. Awesome, man. All right, everyone. There's Hank. And indeed, come over to the other Roxham channels. We won't be using the chat. We're going to talk about all this stuff. We're going to have a good time and talk about all of these stories and more. I'm going to cut the broadcast in 1 second. I just want to say to all of you who left all of these great comments. I'm always here to help my dude. No dumb questions. There's a lot of them here. Pump it up. Taxi driver with dementia. She looks like Hillary Clinton. Loser. Dangerous rhetoric, old man. Oh, no. John Barron, 10 on 10. Cringe maximum. Anyway, thanks for all the comments. I loved how active the whole chat room was this morning. Sorry I didn't get into it. I'm going to find a new way to get more of the chat displayed again. I miss having my beloved Rumble chat folks up on the screen. I'll figure that out. Now we're going to cut. I'm going to go on to Hank's show. You're going to see the logo followed by the thanks for watching screen. I want to tell you thanks for watching. All right, everyone. Peace.